That's the thing about being fired. It's not just the paycheck you lose, it's the sense of yourself, the routine, the feeling of control. One day, you're a professional, a part of something, and the next, you're just unneeded. That's what happened to me. 36 years old, 2 kids, and suddenly my boss, a man I'd worked for over a decade, sat me down and told me it was over. No reason, no warning, just a blank, cold look in his eyes that said, "You are no longer an asset." The first week was a blur of panic. Bills, groceries, the kids' school. It all felt like a tidal wave about to swallow me whole. I tried everything, sending out resumes, calling old contacts. No one was hiring. Or at least, no one was hiring me. The money was running out fast. I started to see the worry in my children's eyes. The way they'd ask about a new toy and then quickly say, "Oh, it's okay, we don't need it." That's when the shame really set in. The feeling of not being enough, of failing them. I remember one night, I just sat in the dark after they were asleep, the silence heavy and suffocating. That's when I saw the half-finished stuffed animal on my sewing table. It was a little bear I'd started for my daughter. I picked it up, ran my fingers over the soft fabric, and a different kind of feeling washed over me. Not panic, but focus. I started sewing. Not just for my kids, but for anyone. I put up a few photos online, offering custom-made stuffed animals. The first order came in a day later, from a woman wanting a dragon for her nephew. Then another, a little fox for a baby shower. The orders started coming in faster and faster. I was sewing late into the night. The whir of the machine, a constant, comforting hum. It was a different kind of work. My work. Every stitch, every piece of fabric, it was all mine. The money wasn't a lot at first, but it was coming in. It was proof that I could still provide, that I wasn't a failure. The business grew from a hobby into a full-time job in a matter of weeks. The orders got bigger, more complex. I started getting requests from boutiques, then larger online retailers. The numbers in my bank account, once a source of constant dread, started to climb. One day, I was reconciling my accounts, and I saw it. The number, $100,000. It was a milestone I never thought I'd reach. I was supposed to be ecstatic, to feel a massive sense of relief and accomplishment. I stared at the screen, at all those zeros, and felt absolutely nothing. Nothing but an empty, cold pit in my stomach. The silence in the house, once suffocating, now just felt vacant. I had the money, but I had lost something else. I just didn't know what it was yet. That feeling of emptiness stayed with me. It was a cold, hard knot in my chest that no amount of money could untie. The first part of this journey was about survival, about pulling myself and my kids back from the edge. Now I was past that. The money in the bank was a safety net, a fortress I'd built with my own hands. But inside that fortress, I was completely alone. I started to notice how much I had changed. My world had shrunk to a few key things: the sewing machine, the endless stream of orders, the balance in my bank account. I remembered a conversation I had with my son, Ben. He was talking about a school project, a diorama of a forest. He was so excited, describing the tiny squirrels and trees he wanted to make. I nodded, barely listening, my mind on a new bulk order of felt. He looked at me, and his face just fell. "Mom, are you listening?" he asked, his voice small. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the disappointment in his eyes. I promised him I'd help that night, but another order came in, a rush job for a high-end baby boutique, and I stayed up until 3 a.m. to finish it. The next morning, I saw his diorama on the kitchen table, half finished. He had just given up. I saw it in my daughter Sarah, too. She used to love watching me sew, asking me to make little clothes for her dolls. Now she just watched me from the doorway, her head tilted, like she was looking at a stranger. The joy, the passion I used to have for making these things was gone. It was just a transaction. A fox doll wasn't a toy for a child. It was a $50 profit. A bear wasn't a friend, it was a $60 sale. Every stitch was an investment. Every piece of fabric was a calculation. I had become what I used to resent in others, someone who measured everything in dollars and cents. One evening, my friend Emily called. She was a single mom too, and she had just landed a new job at a bookstore. She was so happy, talking about the smell of old books and the people she was meeting. It's not a lot of money, but it feels good, like I'm doing something that matters. I listened to her, a lump forming in my throat. I had $100,000 in the bank, but I felt more lost than she did. The money was supposed to bring security, peace, maybe even a little happiness. Instead, it was just a number, a proof that I had succeeded, but I wasn't sure at what. I hung up the phone and looked at the pile of stuffed animals waiting to be shipped. They were perfect, meticulously made, but I felt nothing. It was like I was a machine, not a person. A machine that could make a lot of money, but couldn't feel anything. The cold emptiness was starting to feel like a permanent part of me, and the question that kept echoing in my head was simple and terrifying. Was this all there was? The final tipping point came on a Saturday morning. My daughter, Sarah, who had been quiet and withdrawn, came to me with a little felt heart she had cut out herself. It was lopsided, and the stitches were messy, nothing like the perfect, symmetrical hearts I sewed. "Mummy," she said, her eyes wide and earnest, "I made this for you. It's a hug." She handed it to me. I looked down at the clumsy little thing, then up at her face, so full of hope and a desperate need for my attention. And in that moment, it all broke. The walls I'd built, the cold calculations, the hollow feeling, it all just crumbled. I looked at the $100,000 in my bank account, a number that once felt like a lifeline, and it felt meaningless. It hadn't bought me security, it had bought me a cage. It had cost me my connection to my children, the joy I used to find in the simple act of creating, and a sense of self that wasn't tied to a profit margin. The money wasn't a reward, it was a distraction, a way to avoid the deep, aching question of what truly mattered. I held the little felt heart and hugged Sarah, really hugged her, for the first time in what felt like forever. I could feel the smallness of her body, the warmth of her hug, and I started to cry. It wasn't a sad cry or a panicked one. It was a release. The kind of cry that comes when you've been holding your breath for a month and finally get to exhale. I realized then that my worth wasn't in my bank account. It wasn't in the number of orders or the price of my creations. It was right there, in the arms of my child, in the lopsided felt heart she had made for me. That day, I went into my workshop, but not to sew for an order. I sat down with my kids, and we spent the afternoon making a mess, cutting felds, gluing glitter, creating clumsy little monsters and bears with mismatched eyes. My son, Ben, finished his diorama, and this time I was right there with him, helping him place the tiny squirrels. The creations were imperfect, but the joy on their faces, the laughter filling the room, was perfect. I still have the business, but I changed the way I work. I only take a few orders a week, just enough to live comfortably, to provide for my family. The money is still there, but it's not the goal anymore. It's just a tool. The real work, the true success, is in being present. It's in the quiet moments with my kids, the lopsided hearts, and the feeling of knowing that I'm not just a machine, but a mom, a creator, and a person who can finally, truly feel. The dilemma isn't about whether the money is right or wrong, but about whether you let it define you. And for me, the answer is finally no.